is the co-owner of the Honey Exchange and a proud mother of two brilliant young red-headed women. Please welcome Meghan Gaven.
Was having a terrible time, and she was 6,000 miles from home going to college in Hawaii. And all of the usual kind of parental pressure release valves, come home for the weekend, sweetheart. Let me drive down and take you out to lunch. That was off the table. And all I could do was talk to her on the phone, commiserate, try to come up with a game plan with her, and listen to her cry. Still gets me. And at the time, I was kind of hoping for some of that, I'm moving 6,000 miles away because I don't need you any more energy to come on back. So at the start of this conversation with her, I was trying to be inspirational. I was going, Katie, the universe will take care of you. All you have to do is just look for the signs, honey. By the end of the call, an hour later, I had devolved into just good advice, greatest hits. Get a good night's sleep, you'll feel better in the morning. Be nice to yourself, give yourself a break. And my personal favorite, don't do anything rash. You're not in the right frame of mind to make decisions right now. At the end of the call, she did feel marginally better, but I didn't. I felt very, very concerned about her. And I felt like there was a vice on my heart, just squeezing it. There's a saying that goes, you're only as happy as your least happy child, and she was unhappy, and I was in hell. So that night, my husband Phil and I left our store to drive home, and it was one of those midwinter nights that's just pitch black, even though it's only 6 o'clock. And it was wet, and it was cold, and it suited my mood perfectly. And all the way home, I'm just ranting. I feel like I'm going crazy. I'm just so worried about Kate. I'm going crazy. And Phil said, Meghan, you just gotta give it time. I'm like, I know. So we have to stop at the bank on the way home. Now we're on Broadway. And Phil pulls into the middle lane. And we're waiting for the traffic to clear. And as we're waiting, I look over and I see a little possum come out from under the bushes in the bank parking lot. I'm like, oh my God! Look at that little baby possum! I've never seen one before. I'm enchanted. My mood is just, and I'm like, look how he walks. Look at his cute little body. and it starts walking out towards the sidewalk. I'm like, no, stop. Just as the traffic clears, it drops down into the lane and starts running towards our car. And I'm going, oh God, no, please. And it stops right in front of me. I'm like, oh, thank God it stopped. Because I can see that there's just a wall of traffic coming up on the right. And it stops and it looks at me right in the eyes. And I'm like, oh, you little baby thing, where's your mommy? Do you have a mommy? I'll be your mommy. And then it put its head down, ran the rest of the way, and bam! Instantly run over. I'm screaming and crying. And Phil just stoically drives around the bank, puts our money in the night deposit, and takes us home. And I don't remember too much about that evening. I do know that Phil very uncharacteristically went to bed early that night. I don't know why he did that. I'm not going to speculate. He's a grown man. He can do what he wants. But as he went up the stairs, he looked at me and he said, Meghan, why don't you take your own advice? Get a good night's sleep. You'll feel better in the morning. And he went up and I sat on the couch and I thought, get a good night's sleep. You'll feel better in the morning. So I'm sitting there, stewing in my own juices. And I start remembering another story from 30 years ago. It was a hot summer day. And I was taking my old beater, this Ford Tempo that I got right out of college, down to trade in at a dealership. Now this thing had overheating issues. It wouldn't reliably restart. But I needed to get it to drive it onto the lot of the dealership to make the numbers work for the new car that Phil and I were buying that night. So I'm slowly making my way down towards the dealership. Everything's going fine. And then there's like a bloop. And I have run over something with my back right tire. I'll let you figure the math out on that. And there's a commotion on the side of the road. And so I pull over, I don't turn it off. And I get out, and there's an old man in his yard going, "Duchess, Duchess, no." And I have run over a cat. And now I don't know what to do here. And I don't know what to say, but I go over to him and I tell him I'm so sorry. But really, I have to go. Like, that car might actually catch fire. So I give him my business card, and I say, "Call me if there's anything I can do." And I leave. I leave because I have a date. You know, not with Destiny, but with a Toyota Celica 2-door coupe in Aqua. So the next day he calls me. And he tells me, I'm grateful that he called, by the way. I'm grateful because I felt terrible about the way I left it. And he tells me that they took Duchess to the vet, and the vet gave her the big shot. And he says, "You told me I should call you if there's anything that you can do." And I said, "Yes, please, what?" And he goes, "You can send me a check for $50, you heartless bitch." So there's closure. You know? And time worked her magic, and I hadn't really thought about it in 30 years. Until there I am. I'm sitting on the couch, and now I'm thinking about the cat and this possum and my worry and anxiety for my daughter. It's all jumbled up together, and it percolates. And one idea comes to the surface, and I know what I have to do. I have to bury the possum.
Oh no.
Oh yeah. So I make my plan, I get my things, I get a bag and a couple of shovels and a box, and I motor out into the night. Now it's midnight. And I drive down Broadway, there's nobody there. I just stop right at the scene of the crime, right in the middle of the road. And I'm looking, because I'm going to look for that little guy. Because I've made my plan, I'm going to bury him under the crabapple tree in my backyard, because he would have liked it there. I just know it. But I don't see it. Where's the possum? Where's that little critter? And finally, I look, and it's all the way over in the gutter in the far lane. So I loop the car around, throw on my hazards, pop the trunk, get the bag out, put it in the box. I'm feeling pretty good about that right about now. Because the reason I didn't see the possum when I was looking for it, because I was looking for a possum. And what is in the road is what's left of a possum after it's been run over by rush hour. Really, it's just the tail that's identifiable as being part of a possum, and I pick that thing up and I drop it right in the bag. Because I'm not concerned about this, because I can still picture that little guy just like he was just a few hours before with his little white body and a little curious face. And so now I get out my shovel and I am sluicing the remains into the bag. And it's making a nice sound. And I'm talking to him. I'm like, there's daylilies, and there's daffodils, and there's a nice apple tree, and you're really gonna, and there's like a whoosh and a honk. And I'm honked out of my reverie by a truck. And I come back to myself. And for the first time, I sort of realize, holy crap, I am standing on Broadway at midnight wearing a full-length black coat, sluicing up roadkill. God. So I pack it all in, I race home, I do dig that hole under the crabapple tree, and I pour the possum in. Dirt, rock, say a few words, and I'm in bed not 15 minutes later, and I feel that vice on my heart loosen its grip, and I can take a deep breath for the first time that day, and I get a good night's sleep. You know what? In the morning, I do feel better. Thanks, Mom. And I'm sitting there enjoying the bright winter sunshine, thinking about how it's not just an expression. A person can actually go crazy with worry. And wishing still that I had more than just Phil's reassurances that Katie is going to be all right. When coming up the back steps, I kid you not, is a possum. And it walks right up across my deck. And for a second there, I think that it's a ghost. But it walks right up to the sliding glass door, and it looks at me right in the eyes. And I feel this connection to it. And then it turns and it runs down the steps and disappears. And I think, no, that wasn't a ghost. That was a sign. Thank you.